Now that the Hellcat Magnum finally runs, it is time to get her ready for her maiden voyage to the alignment shop. And there's quite a few things that I need to button up before I take her over there, because the plan is to tow her over to the alignment shop and then from the alignment shop drive her home and park her in the garage. So the Hellcat Magnum is no longer sitting at the shop taking up space, because the car is really nice, the paint's nice, and there's a lot of things that I've been wanting to do, and I don't want to paint with the car in the shop. It's kind of getting to the easy stage of the build, which I'm very excited about, especially going and having somebody else align it. After a whole bunch of measuring, cutting, test fitting, and welding, the front section of the exhaust is done. I think it's also going to flow really well. The one thing, Magnaflow did send me exhaust for the car, but it didn't really fit around any of the all-wheel drive system, which is to be expected because all that's custom. Also, the drive shaft's a lot larger, so the X-pipe wasn't going to work. So I did make the whole section. I made this custom X-pipe. I really like making X-pipes because I like doing it this way. I feel like it flows a lot better. I've never really tested it, but it just seems like it would flow because it's crossing. And then I really like that everything's 3-inch. So normally Hellcats are 3-inch, but eventually I'm going to redo the exhaust in titanium. But I'm not going to do that until I do headers on the car, and I'm not going to do headers on the car until I do the 426 and a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to put a dry sump, and then I'm going to have the front differential in the oil pan for the dry sump, so it raises the diff just a little bit. And I'm going to just kind of improve on a bunch of things on the car, but I really want to drive the car for this whole summer, so I don't want to do all that stuff now. I'll do that stuff next winter. I'll get everything 3D scanned. I'll get everything ready and then get everything made. So then I just throw it in the car and we have a running and driving car again. It's not going to be down as long as this whole build was. So before I put the mufflers on, I want to hear what she's going to sound like with no mufflers. I am going to run the mufflers, but I just really have never heard a Hellcat without cats, without mufflers, and just straight piped. So this is going to sound really good because I'm still going to use Magnaflow's mufflers, and I'm also still going to have the drone eliminators from Magnaflow. Then we have these carbon fiber tips. I don't know. It's not that loud. I thought it was gonna be a lot louder. That's actually not bad with no mufflers. And it's not even up to like the tips or any of the exhaust. It's just off the X pipe, which it'll sound a lot better. Man, I don't know. I really it's hard to make this decision now because it sounds so good. Oh man, what should I do? The exhaust is now 100% fabricated, and it took a little bit of extra time to get everything to fit around the all-wheel drive system, but I really like how everything came out. The one thing I should have done was made the exhaust 100% from scratch. Magnaflow actually sent me an Xmod series exhaust. I really like the exhaust, but it didn't make sense because it would have been easier just to fabricate a whole exhaust instead of fabricating the front section and then trying to get the rear tips to connect to the front section. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds, but if you've ever made an exhaust, it's really hard to get the tips when you have dual exhaust centered in the valence, and I think I accomplished that just perfectly. So both tips are centered. The one thing I'm probably going to end up doing is they stick out a little bit, and I think that's how they're supposed to be from Magnaflow. I don't want them to go completely flush with this valence, just in case there's any flames. I don't want it to melt the bumper. I don't want it to melt the valence, and it doesn't really look that bad right now, but if you push it any further in, it actually hits the hanger on the subframe, so that's probably as far as you want it to go in, and if you go any further in, it also hits the exhaust pipe on the trunk underneath where the sub goes. So I think this is exactly how Magnaflow wants it, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is there's a V-band on this pipe since it's the Xmod series. I'm going to cut that off and maybe move it in just maybe a half an inch, maybe a finger length. So it's not flush, but so it sticks out just the hair. So if there's any backfires or flames, we're not going to have any melting issue. But I really like the Xmod series exhaust just because there's so much interchangeability. You could do a lot with it. You could run the muffler deletes, you can run the mufflers, you can run the valve deletes. It's just really cool system. It's really cool how they designed it. But as you can see over here, it's in a million pieces. This is what's left of the Xmod series exhaust. We have some of the X pipe. I didn't actually use their X pipe. I made my own, and I made the whole front section of the exhaust. So I haven't heard this thing with the mufflers. You guys heard it without the mufflers, just off the X pipe. And I'm really, I hope she sounds good. I think she's gonna sound really good. But there's so much change in the exhaust compared to a Magnaflow, a normal Magnaflow exhaust. It might sound a little bit different than it would on a normal Hellcat. Now that everything is finished, I need to finally put some fuel in her. So I have 10 gallons of 91. I think what's going on is when I put the fuel tank in, I tilted it this way, and all the fuel is on the fuel pump side on the driver's side, and no fuel is on the scavenging pump side on the passenger side. And when I rev it, sometimes she revs perfectly fine, and then other times it seems like it's getting fuel cut. And I know when I take her and tow her over to the dealership, a tow truck isn't gonna wanna stop at a fuel station, so I can fill the car up with gas. So let's throw some 91 in her. That's 10 gallons. I believe the Hellcats have a 16-gallon tank, and then we'll be perfectly 100% ready for the alignment that's coming up. Ka-glook, ka-glook, ka-glook. What's really going on here? I don't want to end the fuel tank. Oh, it has to be like the same exact size. Oh my God. Dodge, what are you doing? Make sure you have this little thing or you won't be able to put fuel in your car unless you use a fuel pump. I can't believe that. And then it's all like small, so then I have to do another funnel. No, this is gonna be a nightmare. You can finally hear fuel flowing over to the other side. It sounds like it's completely empty. So this was a really good call. And now she is full. Not tuned for the smaller pulley, I'll tell you that. Man, she sounds great. Woo! Another thing I'm gonna do before I take her to the dealership is I'm going to take the hubs in the rotor hats and get them re-drilled to 5x115, so then I can put all Hellcat wheels on it. I don't have another set of those, but I'll probably just put I think I have some other ones that are 11 inches wide, but they're like a different style for now. And then I'll figure out what wheel and offset that I'm gonna put, because the back, it's sunk in a little bit too, it's sunk in a little bit too far. And then I have no clue about the front. Now that the front hubs are re-drilled to 5x115, I have a 20x9.5 Hellcat narrow body wheel on the car, and it looks really good. The only problem is the offset is incorrect, so it pokes out probably ½ inch. Some people might like this, I don't like it. I want it to be flush, but I don't want it to poke. I'm going to have custom wheels made for this car, but I really wanted the ability to run a factory Hellcat wheel. If anything happened, even though it pokes a little bit, I could run a factory Hellcat wheel with no issues at all. The one thing I didn't want to do is re-drill the rear hubs. There's not enough meat on the rear hub to actually drill it out to 5x127 safely. You can do it, but it won't be safe. There's not enough meat there for that M14 stud to go through and then be safe being able to do, you know, these cars can do 200 miles an hour and you don't want your hub cracking. Rear hubs are actually a cast hub, where the front hubs off the Trackhawk and the Durango Hellcat are a machined hub. And there's a lot of meat for those studs to go in because I don't want them to poke in the front, and they're a little sunk in on the factory wide body wheels in the rear. So I'm gonna most likely do 11s or 11.5 in the rear. I'm most likely going to run 315s or 335-inch wide tires in the rear. And then in the front, since it's all-wheel drive, I'm probably just going to stay around 10-inch wide or maybe 10.5s. I don't want to go too wide because the one thing I have noticed driving Hellcats around is they don't have a great turning radius. In the rear, the sway bar always has the paint rubbed off of it because the tire actually contacts the sway bar at full lock with the 11-inch wide wheels. So hopefully with the 10-inch wide or 10.5s, I'll have a lot more room. The sway bar isn't back there anymore, and we'll have a lot better time turning this car, and it'll have a little bit more steering angle since the whole suspension geometry in the front has changed. Windshield wipers are going. Maybe it's because the switch isn't in there. Somebody mentioned that last time. Man, she sounds a little spicy. You can see all the condensation getting pretty much sprayed out of the exhaust. I probably should have moved the headliner board, and then it just sounds so good. It also needs to have the cooling system bled, so I don't want to let it run too long. And other than that, she's gonna sound really good. I'm really excited about this because this car, I've been working on it for so long that now we're finally to the point that I almost get a driver. Once she gets aligned, I should be able to drive her, hopefully be able to drive her home. If not, then probably a couple weeks after that. But yeah, I cannot wait to finally get this car aligned and actually be able to drive it. And after I get it aligned, I instantly have to get it tuned because of smaller pulley. I am super stoked that I'm finally this close to being able to drive the car. I'm sure you guys are stoked as well. There's a few things I have to do before I can actually drive the car. The alignment is in the next video. And then in the video after that, I need to take the car instantly from the alignment to the dyno because I have 1300cc injectors to complement that smaller pulley. I'm guessing it's gonna make a little over 800 horsepower. My friend that's tuned all my other cars, he does a really good job. I trust him. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm gonna drive the car up to Denver or if I'm going to tow it up to Denver because I need to see, really when you're cruising, you're not really in boost, but I don't wanna go over 10 pounds of boost because that'll hurt the engine. Most likely what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to put the injectors in, load it on a trailer, tow it up there, and then probably tow her back and then be able to drive her when I get back. So I'm really excited that she is finally to this stage and she looks really good. Had a few things that we had to work out. The front hubs, had to drill those, got it all 5x115, got everything else done with the exhaust, and I really like how it sounds. I'm really happy that I left the mufflers because it is already pretty loud. And with no mufflers, it'd probably be unbearable. And I want to drive this car a lot. And I want it to be enjoyable. Plus, I want it to sound good when I'm driving. So I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below, share this video with your friends. And as always, see you guys next time.